And if you don't consciously choose to commit to one person, you will not be able to fight temptations. So I truly hope that the message I'm sharing inspires and motivates you to improve your life. Now let's get to the point. Welcome back to another episode of ToDaPointPodcast, and if you're new to the channel, welcome. Before I get into today's video, I want to thank each and every one of you that has subscribed. I think we are over 51 right now. I'm so grateful for that, so thank you. So the topic of today's video is 6 green flags to look for when dating. And in the past, I made a video about red flags, but I thought, let me do the opposite right now. Since we are spiritual beings having human experience, and we live in a universe where whatever we focus on tends to manifest itself in our reality, right? So even though it's important to know what you don't want, it's also important to know what you do want so you can focus on that. So that's why this idea came up. We're gonna go over 6 green flags to look for while dating. I have to say that I'm no dating expert or relationship expert, so you don't have to take my word for it. But if your love life or dating life sucks right now, this video might benefit you. So you have nothing to lose, right? Alright, so let's get into the 6 green flags to look for while dating. The first one is consistency. I always say that it's important to look at what someone does and what someone says. And the most important part is to look at if the words match their actions and vice versa, right? Personal experience, I was dating a girl, and this was a couple of years back, and she used to tell me how much she liked me. But whenever I tried to get a hold of her on the phone, she was never available, right? And at one point, it became something that happened a lot. So at one point I realized this is not matching, right? You can tell someone you care about them, but when they need you, you're never around. While I was always around when she needed me, right? That means that there was some discrepancy in her actions and words, or words and actions. So pay attention to how somebody shows up in the connection you have. The thing is that when there's discrepancy in what they do and say, and vice versa, that means that person is running game on you, right? So don't fall for the trap of believing what they say. Look at what they do. Because someone who cares about you will make time for you, will make you a priority. I'm not saying to always be there for you 24/7 because we all have our own lives, right? But if someone really cares about you, they will make you a priority. They will always show you that they care about you, and in different ways. But the most important thing is that they show you in some form or another that you are important to them and that they don't want to lose you and they don't want to jeopardize the relationship. So pay attention to words and actions and see if they match. If not, get the fuck out of the situation, because trust me, it's gonna save you a lot of headaches, heartbreak, and frustration, right? And traumas, by the way. So with that being said, let's look at the second green flag to look for while dating. And that is sincere interest. Nothing turns me off more than being in a conversation with somebody who only talks about themselves, right? A conversation needs to be a dialogue, not a monologue. And if you don't know what that is a monologue is when you're the only one speaking. And a dialogue is when there's transmitting and receiving of information, right? Like in a conversation. Be aware of how somebody shows up in a conversation. Because if they're always talking and they're never asking you questions back, that means that they're basically just interested in your energy and your attention, right? AKA, you might be somebody's emotional tampon. Someone who's really interested in you will ask you questions to get to know you, besides the sexual stuff, right? They will ask deep questions to get to know who you are, where you come from, and things that motivate you in order to build a relationship with you. If that's not the case, somebody is just using you to talk at, not even talk to, right? I am a firm believer of always addressing the issue. So if this is bothering you in a conversation, talk about it and see if the behavior changes. If not, the same as the previous one, get out of the situation, because this person just isn't that interested in you. They just love your attention. And you shouldn't be nobody's therapist. Don't stick around if somebody is showing you that they're not really interested in you. Alright, so number 3 is communication. Basically being transparent, honest, vulnerable, and consistent in your communication. For me personally, I like, when dating, someone who is able and willing to communicate as clear as possible. I'm an overthinker, so I need things to be clear, right? And I like to be clear in my communication also, because I know how it feels to be an overthinker. The thing about being able to communicate as well as possible is that it brings you closer to each other. Not only because you get to know the person, but because the person gets to know and you get to know about the person, what's going on in your head. And by being honest, transparent, vulnerable, and consistent, you make sure that nothing stands in the way between you and the other person. When somebody is being inconsistent in their communication with you, that might also mean that you're not a priority. Of course, there might be different things going on, but again, if someone really cherishes your connection, they will make sure that everything is clear, right? And they will always make sure that they're around. They don't just disappear for hours and then show up again like nothing happened. So by being clear about your intentions, you, like I said before, you grow closer with each other, and it creates a space to be vulnerable, right? And the only way to do that is if you're doing this on a consistent basis, right? So if something or someone is really important to you, make sure you're consistent in your communication and ask for that in return. Again, if you feel like that person is not willing to do that, that is a sign for you to move on. I hope I don't trigger anybody with this thing, because I know that life can happen and someone might not be able to show up the same way as usual. But again, if this is a reoccurring pattern, it might be a sign that this person is not as invested as you are. So pay attention to that. Alright, number 4 is align goals and values. This does not mean that you should have the same goals. For the relationship, it's important to have the same goals, because otherwise you will grow apart, or it might be that you are not compatible, right? When it comes to career and hobbies, you might have different values and goals, but you are willing and able to support each other in that, right? So for example, let's say this is something significantly small, but it might be important and determine the course of the relationship or the potential relationship. Let's say you want to live in the city and your partner or potential partner wants to live on a farm, right? Or live in a caravan and travel the world. There might be a chance here that you are not compatible, because if you're not willing to change what it is you want, or the person doesn't want to change that might mean that it's not going to work in the future. Like I said before, the most important thing is that you are willing and able to support each other in your goals, right? And find a way to meet each other halfway. For example, I dated a person once who did not prioritize her health, was not interested in self-improvement, and smoked all day, right? This was in my younger years. I was naive. Anyway, at one point, we just grew apart because I started realizing that, okay, we are not on the same path. Again, you don't have to have the exact same goals, but there were too many differences, and rest assured it did not work out, right? I had to break it off, and I'm happy I did, because I cannot imagine being in the same relationship in this stage of my life, right? So make sure that the important goals are aligned, and also your values. If there are small things, you can always talk about that and find a solution. Alright, let's move on to number 5, and that is chemistry. If there's no chemistry, like sexual tension or attraction, you might be feeling like you're settling in the relationship, right? Because you feel like you can always do better. Not to say that you're better than anyone else, but chemistry is basically a glue to be attracted to someone and get to know the person better, right? Otherwise, it's just a platonic relationship. On top of that, having chemistry is something that can enhance your sex life, your love life. Because chemistry makes you want to be around that person, get to know that person, and if there's no chemistry, usually the interest will be low, or it will just turn out to be a friendship. But I need you to remember though that chemistry does not equal compatibility. I used to make this mistake in the past, finding someone super attractive and thinking this is the person. Usually it turned out that that was not the case, because attraction does not equal being able to fit into each other's lifestyles. So pay attention to that. Alright, last but not least, and that's number 6, and that is willingness to commit. Being in a relationship is a conscious choice, right? You are willingly choosing to focus on one specific person. You're choosing to commit to that one specific person, and you are choosing to build with each other. The thing is, there are so many beautiful people in this world, right? And if you don't consciously choose to commit to one person, you will not be able to fight temptations, right? That's when infidelity comes in. One of the reasons that people cheat, because they are not really committed to the relationship. If you want to build a healthy and stable relationship, it starts with commitment. It starts with being willing to forget about anyone and anything else and just focus on your specific person. So those were the 6 green flags to look for. You know what? I have another one. Almost forgot this one, and that is calmness. And this, I know this might sound like I'm contradicting myself, but hear me out. My experience is that in the past, when I used to feel very unsettled around a certain person because I felt so much attraction and chemistry, I realized that I was confusing that unsettledness with being in love, until I noticed that that person was basically triggering past traumas for me, like maybe childhood traumas, right? I came to the conclusion, and I am 100% convinced, that when you meet a person that is right for you, you will feel calm. Not to say that you won't feel any type of chemistry, but you will feel a calmness. Because The unsettledness you're feeling is a sign of your intuition or your nervous system that something is off. And again, that might not be the case for you, but that's my experience. I used to feel on edge all the time until I noticed that it was just a warning from my intuition. So whenever you feel like someone is basically triggering some traumas, it's time to address what they are resembling and work on those things, and chances are high that that person will no longer be attractive to you. So pay attention to how you feel before, during, and after interaction with that person you think might be the one. So yeah, I'm out of green flags for now. I hope you found value in today's video. If so, like, share, subscribe. Thank you for watching, and as always, see you in the next one. Bye.